The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds filled the floating platforms that circled the central speaking area. Commander Jake Morrison had never seen anything like it in his 43 years of life. He stood next to Dr. Lisa Grant on the human platform, which was positioned far from the center. The other species had placed them in what was clearly the section for unimportant visitors. Jake didn't mind. He was too busy studying the aliens around them. The Vorthik looked like giant lizards walking on two legs. Their scales changed color when they spoke, shifting from green to deep red. The Ashanti appeared almost like ghosts, their bodies so pale they seemed to glow. The insect-like Kirani clicked and buzzed to each other in sounds that hurt Jake's ears. "Look at them staring at us," Lisa whispered. She was a small woman with bright eyes who had spent her whole career studying the possibility of alien life. Now she was face to face with dozens of species she had only dreamed about. Jake nodded. Every alien in sight was looking at the two humans. Some pointed with various types of arms, tentacles, or claws. Others made sounds that might have been laughter. A few took what looked like pictures with devices Jake couldn't identify. High Counselor Mirden floated to the center of the hall. The Ashanti leader's voice filled the space without any visible technology. "We gather today to discuss the newest species to achieve faster-than-light travel. The beings from the third planet of the Sol system." A wave of what sounded like amusement swept through the hall. Jake felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. Lisa placed a gentle hand on his arm. Ambassador Zexthul, the senior Vorthek representative, slithered forward on his platform. His scales had turned a bright orange color. "High Counselor, with respect, why are we wasting the Council's time with these creatures? Our scientists have studied them for months. They are nothing special." More sounds of agreement came from around the hall. Jake noticed that not all species were joining in. Some watched quietly, their expressions unreadable. A holographic display appeared above the center of the hall. It showed images of Earth, human cities, and human spacecraft. The technology looked primitive compared to what Jake had seen since arriving at the Council station. "The humans live an average of only 80 Earth years," Zexthul continued. "They require a very specific atmosphere to survive. Their technology is centuries behind the least advanced Council member. They fight constant wars among themselves." The display changed to show footage of human conflicts throughout history. Jake watched images of ancient battles, world wars, and more recent conflicts flash by. He understood the point the alien was making, but the presentation felt deliberately chosen to make humans look bad. "They are violent and unstable," another voice called out. Jake couldn't see who spoke, but the voice had a metallic sound. "Their planet's environment is already damaged from their industrial activities. They will likely destroy themselves within a few generations." Dr. Grant stepped forward. The platform had translation devices, so her words would be understood by all species present. "High Counselor, if I may speak?" Mirden's glowing form turned toward them. "The human scientist may address the Council." Lisa's voice was steady and professional. "We appreciate the Council's interest in our species. Yes, we have challenges. Yes, we have conflicts. But we have also achieved space travel in less time than most species in this hall. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and disasters that would have ended other civilizations." She paused and looked around the hall. "We have art, music, literature, and scientific achievements that we would be happy to share. We have sent this delegation not to ask for anything, but to offer friendship and cooperation." The hall fell quiet for a moment. Then Zexthul's scales shifted to deep red. "Friendship? Cooperation? What could a species like yours possibly offer to civilizations that have existed for millions of years?" Jake decided it was his turn to speak. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat, and he knew how to read a hostile crowd. Ambassador Zexthul, we offer a different perspective. Our short lives mean we value time differently. Our struggles have made us adaptable. Our diversity has taught us to solve problems in new ways. He gestured toward the holographic display, which was still showing human conflicts. Yes, we fight. But we also know how to make peace. We learn from our mistakes. Every war we have fought has taught us something about ourselves and about the cost of violence. A new voice spoke from somewhere in the hall. This one sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The human speaks of learning from mistakes. What have you learned from your most recent conflicts? Jake thought carefully before answering. We learned that problems cannot be solved by force alone. We learned that different peoples can work together if they share common goals. We learned that protecting the innocent is worth any sacrifice. Some sections of the hall remained quiet, but others began making dismissive sounds again. Zexthul's scales were now pulsing between red and black. Pretty words from a species that still maintains military forces on their homeworld. We do, Jake admitted, because we learned another lesson. There are those who would harm the innocent, and sometimes the only way to stop them is to be ready to fight. High Counselor Mirden raised what might have been a hand. The hall fell silent. The council has heard from the human delegation. We will now discuss classification and protocols. Jake and Lisa were escorted to a waiting area while the aliens debated their fate. Through a transparent wall, they could see the continuing discussion. The aliens seemed to be dividing into groups. Some appeared to be arguing for one position, others for different approaches. After 3 hours, they were brought back to their platform. Mirden announced the decision. The species known as humans have been classified as Category 3 primitive. They will be observed but not interfered with. Standard Directive 447 is now in effect. Zexthul's scales had returned to green, suggesting satisfaction. The humans will be allowed to continue their development without council intervention. Our projections suggest they will either achieve maturity in several centuries or destroy themselves first. Either outcome will be noted for council records. As Jake and Lisa were escorted from the hall, Jake heard fragments of conversation from the alien platforms. Words like amusing, temporary, and insignificant reached his ears through the translation system. On their ship heading back to Earth, Lisa stared out at the stars. They think we're going to burn out or fade away. Jake was reading the official council documents they had been given. The language was polite but dismissive. Humanity was considered a minor curiosity, barely worth watching. Maybe that's for the best, he said finally. What do you mean? Jake closed the documents and looked out at the same stars. They're not paying attention to us. That means we can develop without interference. We can grow, learn, and become stronger without them trying to guide or control us. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. You think they made a mistake? Jake smiled. But it wasn't a happy expression. Lisa, in all of human history, has it ever been a good idea to underestimate us? The ship continued toward Earth, carrying news of humanity's first contact with galactic civilization. Behind them, the Council. Station grew smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. The aliens continued their debates and discussions, confident in their assessment of the newest species to join the galaxy. None of them noticed that the human ship's sensors had been recording everything during their visit. None of them realized that Jake Morrison was not just a diplomat, but a former intelligence officer who had spent the entire visit studying their technology, their politics, and their weaknesses. The Galactic Council had made their first mistake about humanity. It would not be their last. Captain Ryan Clark stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching 3 suns rise over an unexplored planet. 15 years had passed since humanity's first meeting with the Galactic Council. In that time, everything had changed. "Captain, the scan is complete," reported his science officer, Lieutenant Danny Hayes. "The planet has breathable air, fresh water, and no signs of intelligent life. It's perfect for a colony." Ryan nodded. This was the third habitable world they had found. This year, the alien races had told humanity that finding good planets was difficult and took many years. Humans seemed to be finding them everywhere they looked. "Send the data to Admiral Parker," Ryan ordered. "He'll want to see this right away." Across the galaxy, engineer Kate Williams was working in her laboratory on Mars. She had been designing new spacecraft engines that could travel faster than anything the Council species used. The aliens had shared some basic technology with humanity, thinking it would take centuries for humans to understand it. Kate had improved on their designs. "In just 5 years, the new engine is ready for testing," she told her assistant, Dr. Paul Miller. "If my calculations are correct, it will be twice as fast as the fastest Council ship." Paul looked worried. "Kate, should we be developing technology this advanced?" "The Council said we should go slowly." Kate smiled and continued working on her engine. "Paul, the Council isn't our government. They're not even paying attention to what we're doing. They think we're still trying to figure out basic space travel." She was right. In the Council chambers, the representatives were focused on a growing threat. The Kethmer Empire had begun expanding aggressively, taking over smaller civilizations. The militaristic lizard-like beings had conquered 12 worlds in the past 2 years. Ambassador Zex Thul was addressing the Council about the Kethmer problem. "High Counselor, the Empire grows stronger with each world they conquer. Soon they will threaten major Council members." High Counselor Mirden glowed brighter with concern. "What do you suggest, Ambassador?" "We should relocate the threatened species to safer worlds," Zex Thul replied. "Moving entire populations is expensive, but it's better than fighting the Kethmer directly," other Council members agreed. The Galactic Council had not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. They preferred diplomatic solutions and strategic retreats to actual conflict. While the Council debated, Dr. Alex Turner was making a breakthrough in his laboratory on Earth. The quantum physicist had been studying alien communication technology. The Council species used faster-than-light messages, but they still took days or weeks to cross the galaxy. "I think I've figured it out," Alex told his research team. "If we can create a quantum link between 2 points, we can send messages instantly, across any distance." His assistant, Dr. Sarah Kim, checked his calculations. "Alex, this is incredible. With instant communication, we could coordinate activities across dozens of star systems in real time." "Exactly," Alex said. "And I don't think any of the Council species have this technology yet." Admiral Ben Parker was already using Alex's early communication prototypes to coordinate human activities across space. From his command center on Luna, he could speak directly with colony ships, exploration vessels, and research stations scattered across 50 star systems. "The humans are expanding faster than any species in Council history," he told his staff during a briefing. "But the aliens still think we're just a primitive species playing with their old technology." His intelligence officer, Commander Lisa Grant, had been promoted since the first Council meeting. "Admiral, our observers report that the Council barely mentions humanity in their sessions. They're completely focused on the Kethmer threat." "Good," Admiral Parker said. "Let them stay focused on that. Meanwhile, we'll keep building our capabilities." The Kethmer Empire was indeed becoming a serious threat. War Chief Grothois led the Empire's military forces with brutal efficiency. His species believed that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe. They had conquered the peaceful Yelani system 3 months ago. Elder Salandri of the Yelani people was one of the few survivors. Her species looked like tall, graceful birds with beautiful feathered wings. They had never fought a war, and were completely unprepared for the Kethmer attack. "The Council promised to help us," she said to the few other survivors hiding in the mountains of her homeworld. "They said they would relocate us to safety." Her aide, a young Yilani named Terwin, shook his head sadly. "Elder, the Council ships won't arrive for another 6 months. The Kethmer are hunting us now. We won't survive that long." Unknown to the Yilani, their desperate situation was being monitored by human listening posts. Captain Ryan Clark had been ordered to observe the Kethmer invasion but not to interfere. However, when he saw the recordings of Kethmer soldiers hunting down innocent civilians, something inside him rebelled. "This is wrong," he told his crew. "These people need help now, not in 6 months." His first officer, Commander Tony Roberts, agreed. "Captain, the Council said we shouldn't interfere with galactic politics." "The Council isn't here," Ryan replied. "And those aren't politicians down there. They're families trying to survive." Ryan sent a coded message to Admiral Parker describing the situation. The Admiral's response came back within minutes, thanks to Dr. Turner's quantum communication network. "Captain Clark, you are authorized to provide humanitarian assistance to civilian populations under threat. Use your judgment." Kate Williams had just finished installing her new engines on several ships when Admiral Parker contacted her directly. "Kate, we need those ships ready for combat operations immediately." "Combat?" Kate was surprised. "Admiral, I thought these were for exploration." "Plans change," Admiral Parker said. "The Kethmer Empire is committing genocide against the Yilani people. We're going to stop them." Dr. Alex Turner was shocked when he received orders to establish quantum communication links with ships heading to the Yilani system. "Admiral, if we use this technology in combat, the Council will know we have capabilities they don't." "Admiral." Parker's voice was firm through the communication link. "Dr. Turner, there are children dying on Yilani worlds while the Council debates relocation schedules. I don't care what the aliens think about our technology." Within days, human ships were moving toward the Yilani system. The vessels were faster than anything the Council had seen, equipped with weapons based on improved alien designs, and connected by communication systems that allowed perfect coordination. Captain Ryan Clark led the small fleet. As they approached the Yilani homeworld, they detected Kethmer ships in orbit. The Empire's vessels were larger and more heavily armed than the human ships. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Hayes, "the Kethmer have 17 ships in the system. We have 8. Ryan studied the tactical display. The Kethmer ships were positioned to bombard the planet's surface, while their ground troops continued hunting survivors. It was exactly the kind of situation human military doctrine was designed to handle. "All ships, this is Captain Clark," he broadcast on the quantum communication network. "Remember, we're not here to fight a traditional space battle. We're here to save the Yilani people." The human ships split up, using tactics that no Council species had ever attempted. Instead of forming a battle line and exchanging fire, they used their superior speed and coordination to attack from multiple directions. Simultaneously, War Chief Grathois watched in confusion as the unknown ships appeared on his sensors. "What species are these?" he demanded of his bridge crew. "Unknown, War Chief," replied his tactical officer. "Their technology doesn't match any Council species in our database." "It doesn't matter," Grathois snarled. "Destroy them." But the human ships weren't following any combat patterns the Kethmer recognized. They struck fast, rescued groups of Yilani survivors, and disappeared before the Empire ships could respond effectively. On the surface of the Yilani homeworld, Elder Silandri watched in amazement as strange ships landed near her hiding place. Beings in protective suits emerged and began loading Yilani civilians onto their vessels. One of the beings approached her. Through a translation device, a voice said, "Elder Silandri, I'm Captain Ryan Clark of the human fleet. We're here to get you to safety." "Humans?" Silandri had never heard of the species. Who sent you? Nobody sent us, Ryan replied. We came because it was the right thing to do. As the rescue operation continued, news of the human intervention spread across both the Galactic Council and the Kefmer Empire. Both sides were shocked that the species they had dismissed as primitive was now actively participating in galactic conflicts. High Counselor Mirden called an emergency session of the Council. How did the humans develop such advanced capabilities so quickly? He demanded. Ambassador Zexthl's scales had turned pale with worry. High Counselor, our intelligence reports suggest they have been advancing much faster than our models predicted. They may have capabilities we don't fully understand. For the first time since first contact, the Galactic Council began to seriously consider what humanity might become. But they were already 15 years too late. War Chief Grathois had never encountered anything like the human ships. His Kefmer fleet was the most feared military force in the galaxy, equipped with weapons that had crushed dozens of civilizations. But these strange vessels moved in ways that defied everything he knew about space combat. They're not fighting like any Council species, his tactical officer reported, confusion clear in his voice. They attack, rescue civilians, and disappear before we can target them properly. Grathois watched the display as another group of human ships appeared behind his formation. They had somehow moved there without being detected by his sensors. How are they doing this? General Matt Collins was coordinating the human response from his command ship, the Liberty. He had studied Kefmer tactics for months, preparing for this moment. The Empire always used the same strategy: overwhelming force applied directly to the target. All units, this is General Collins, he broadcast through the quantum communication network. The Kefmer expect us to line up and trade shots with them. We're not going to do that. Commander Julie Ross was leading the rescue operation on the planet's surface. Her ship, the Defender, had just landed near a group of Yilani refugees hiding in a forest. The Kefmer ground troops were closing in on their position. We need to move fast, she told her team. The Empire soldiers will be here in 10 minutes. Her Marines were already loading frightened Yilani families onto the ship. The bird-like aliens had never seen humans before, but they could sense that these strangers were trying to help them. Elder Silandri approached Commander Ross. Human Commander, there are more of my people trapped in the city. The Kefmer have them surrounded. Julie looked at the tactical display. The city was heavily defended, with Empire forces positioned at every entrance. A conventional rescue would be impossible. But humans didn't always use conventional tactics. General Collins, she called through her communicator. I need permission to attempt a direct insertion into the city center. Negative, Commander, Collins replied. The risk is too high. Sir, there are 3,000 civilians in that city. If we don't get them out, they'll be killed. There was a pause. Then Collins spoke again. Commander Ross, you have a go. But if this goes wrong, we might lose more than just one ship. Julie smiled grimly. Understood, General. We'll make it work. What happened next would be studied by military historians for generations. Instead of trying to fight through the Kefmer defenses, Julie's ship dove straight down from orbit at maximum speed. The Empire's sensors couldn't track something moving that fast through the atmosphere. The Defender crashed through the roof of the building, where the Yilani civilians were being held. Julie's team secured the area while the ship's engines continued running, ready for immediate takeoff. Move, 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 Julie shouted as her Marines guided the refugees onto the ship. The whole operation took less than 3 minutes. Kefmer troops arrived just as the Defender was lifting off. They fired at the ship, but it was already accelerating back towards space. War Chief Grathois watched in disbelief as the human vessel escaped with its cargo of civilians. Impossible, he muttered. No species would risk a ship like that for non-combatants. But the humans weren't finished. General Collins had been watching the Empire's response patterns. He noticed that the Kethmer ships always moved to protect their command vessel when attacked. This gave him an idea. "All ships, new plan," he broadcast. "We're going to board their command ship." His officers were shocked. Boarding an enemy vessel during space combat was considered suicide by every military doctrine in the galaxy. The risks were enormous, and the chances of success were almost zero. "General," his tactical officer said. "Sir, that's never been attempted before." "Exactly," Collins replied. "They won't expect it." The human fleet executed a complex maneuver that brought them close to the Kethmer command ship. While the Empire vessels were repositioning to respond, 5 human ships launched boarding pods directly at the enemy flagship. War Chief Gravois felt his ship shake as the human pods attached to the hull. "They're trying to board us," he roared. "Secure all sections." The Kethmer were excellent warriors, but they had never faced human marines in close combat. The humans used tactics that seemed insane to the reptilian soldiers. They moved through the ship in small groups, using explosives and surprise attacks to clear their path. Sergeant Mike Torres led one of the boarding teams. His mission was to reach the ship's engine room and disable the primary systems. As his team moved through the corridors, they encountered heavy resistance from Kethmer defenders. "These lizards are tough," he reported to his squad. "But they fight like they're in a formal duel. They're not ready for guerrilla warfare." The humans used smoke grenades, flashbang explosives, and coordinated attacks to confuse the Kethmer defenders. Within 30 minutes, they had taken control of key sections of the enemy ship. War Chief Gravois found himself trapped on his own bridge as human soldiers surrounded the command center. He had never experienced anything like this in 2 decades of conquest. "Surrender your ship," General Collins' voice came through the communication system. "Your crew will not be harmed if you comply." "Kethmer do not surrender," Gravois snarled. "Then your ship will be destroyed with you on it," Collins replied calmly. "Choose quickly." The war chief looked around at his bridge crew. They were some of the most experienced warriors in the Empire, but they all looked terrified. The humans had done something that was supposed to be impossible. "What are you?" Gravois demanded. "We're the people you made angry when you started killing innocent civilians," Collins answered for the first time in his life. Gravois felt real fear. These humans didn't fight for conquest or glory. They fought with a cold determination that was more frightening than any battle rage. "I surrender," he said quietly. The news of the Kethmer surrender spread across the galaxy within hours. The Empire's most feared fleet had been defeated by a species that most aliens had never heard of. The Galactic Council emergency session was called immediately. High Counselor Mirden's glow was dim with worry. How did this happen? The humans were classified as primitive just 15 years ago. Ambassador Zexthel's scales had turned completely black. "High Counselor, we may have made a serious error in our assessment. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that exceed several Council member species." The Council chambers buzzed with nervous conversation. Species that had dismissed humanity as insignificant were now asking urgent questions about human intentions and capabilities. Elder Salandri stood before the Council as a witness to the battle. "Honored counselors, the humans saved my people when no one else would act. They risked their own lives to protect civilians they had never met. But they also demonstrated military capabilities that are concerning," Mirden replied. "No species has ever successfully boarded an enemy command ship during active combat." "Perhaps," Salandri said, "but they used those capabilities to save lives, not to conquer worlds. The humans could have destroyed the Kethmer fleet completely. Instead, they accepted surrender and treated prisoners with respect." Meanwhile, Admiral Ben Parker was receiving reports from the battle zone. The human fleet had captured 17 Kethmer ships and rescued over 50,000 Yelani civilians. The Empire's expansion had been stopped for the first time in decades. "Admiral," Commander Grant reported, "we're receiving communication. Requests from over 30 species. They all want to know about human military capabilities and intentions." Parker smiled. "Tell them we're available for discussions about mutual defense agreements. It seems the galaxy is finally ready to take us seriously." In the Ilani system, the rescued civilians were being transported to safety. Elder Silandri approached General Collins as his ship prepared to leave. "General, my people owe you a debt we can never repay," she said. Collins shook his head. "Elder, you don't owe us anything. Protecting innocent people is what we do." "But why?" she asked. "Your species could have ignored our situation. The Council did." Collins was quiet for a moment. "Elder, humans learned a long time ago that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We couldn't stand by and watch your people suffer." As the human fleet departed, Elder Silandri made a decision that would change galactic history. She sent a message to every species in the local region. "The humans have proven themselves to be protectors, not conquerors. My people formally request to join any alliance they choose to form." Within days, 12 other species had sent similar messages. The Terran Defense Alliance was born, not from human ambition, but from the galaxy's recognition that humanity offered something the Council could not: the willingness to act when action was needed. War Chief Grathois, now a prisoner on a human ship, watched through a window as his former fleet was escorted away. He had been defeated not by superior technology, but by a species that fought with principles his people had forgotten long ago. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were not just another species to be categorized and dismissed. They were something new, something dangerous, and something that would change everything. President Linda Hayes stood in the Oval Office, reading reports from across the galaxy. 3 years had passed since the Battle of Yulani, and everything had changed. What started as a rescue mission had become something much larger. "Madam President," her Chief of Staff announced, "the Galactic Council is requesting an emergency meeting. They want to discuss human expansion and the new alliance." Linda looked out the window at the Washington skyline. In the distance, she could see the construction of the new Terran Defense Command Center. "Tell them we'll send a representative. But make it clear that we're not asking for their permission to exist." The Galactic Council was facing its worst crisis in thousands of years. The defeat of the Kethmer had encouraged other aggressive species to form their own alliance. The Dominion of Strength now included 4 major military powers, all united. In their belief that might made right, High Counselor Mirden looked exhausted as he addressed the emergency session. "The Dominion has conquered 18 worlds in the past 6 months. Our diplomatic protests have been ignored." Ambassador Zexthel's scales were a worried gray color. "High Counselor, we must consider military action. The Dominion will not stop with words." "With what military?" demanded Counselor Keshtar, a crystalline being whose voice sounded like breaking glass. "Half our member species have no combat vessels. The other half haven't fought a real war in centuries." While the Council debated, Admiral Sam Rodriguez was meeting with representatives from 37 species in the Terran Defense Alliance. The human fleet had grown from a few dozen ships to over 300 vessels, many built with hybrid human-alien technology. "The Dominion is testing our resolve," Admiral Rodriguez told the gathered representatives. "They've attacked 3 Alliance worlds in the past month, always retreating when our ships arrive." Elder Silandri, now serving as the Alliance's diplomatic coordinator, spoke for the non-human members. "Admiral, my people and others joined this alliance because humans promised to protect us. We trust you to keep that promise." Dr. Tony Mitchell had been working around the clock in his research facility on Luna. His teams had been studying captured Dominion technology and combining it with human innovations. The results were impressive and frightening. "We've created Weapon systems that are 50% more efficient than anything the Dominion uses, he reported to President Hayes via secure quantum link. But Madam President, if we use these in combat, there's no hiding our technological capabilities anymore. Linda understood the implications. So far, the galaxy had seen human tactics and determination, but not the full extent of human innovation. Once that secret was revealed, everything would change. Dr. Mitchell, she said, prepare everything for deployment. If the Dominion wants a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. Council Emergency Director Vashtar was a member of the insect-like hive species. His compound eyes could process information faster than most biological brains, which made him perfect for crisis management. But even he was struggling with the current situation. The Council faces a choice, he announced to the emergency session. We can either attempt to negotiate with the Dominion, or we can ask the Terran Alliance for military assistance. The hall erupted in angry buzzing, clicking, and various other sounds of disagreement. Many Council species still viewed humans as upstart primitives who had gotten lucky once. Ask for human help? Zexthal's scales flashed red. We are the Galactic Council. We have governed this galaxy for millions of years. And in all that time came a new voice. What have you actually accomplished? Every being in the hall turned to see Admiral Rodriguez entering the chamber. He had not been invited, but somehow he had gained access to the most secure facility in Council space. Admiral Rodriguez, Meerden said, his glow brightening with surprise. How did you get here? I walked through your front door, Sam replied. Calmly, your security didn't stop me because they've never seen human stealth technology before. The implications of this statement sent waves of concerned murmurs through the hall. If humans could penetrate Council security so easily, what else could they do? I'm here to make an offer, Sam continued. The Terran Defense Alliance is willing to help defend Council worlds from Dominion attacks. In exchange, we want formal recognition of our sovereignty and our right to operate independently. Zexthal stood up, his scales now bright red with anger. You dare make demands of the Council? You're nothing but a primitive species that learned to copy our technology. Sam smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. Ambassador, would you like to see our copied technology in action? Before anyone could respond, holographic displays appeared throughout the hall, showing real-time images from across the galaxy. The Council members could see human ships, space stations, and colonies that they had never known existed. We currently have active settlements in over 200 star systems, Sam announced. Our quantum communication network allows instant coordination across the entire galaxy. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Council fleet. The displays changed to show human military exercises. Council members watched in amazement as human ships performed maneuvers that seemed to violate the laws of physics. But technology isn't what makes us dangerous, Sam continued. What makes us dangerous is that we fight for something you've forgotten how to fight for. And what is that? Meerden asked quietly. The idea that some things are worth dying for, Sam replied. Freedom, justice, the right of innocent people to live without fear. Vashtar's insect head tilted as he processed this information. Admiral, you speak of principles. But principles do not stop plasma cannons or defeat battle fleets. Don't they? Sam asked. Ambassador Zexthal, tell the Council what happened when your species last fought a war for survival. Zexthal's scales went pale. That was 3,000 years ago. We fought the Skelter invasion. And you won, Sam said. Because your people were fighting for their families, their homes, their very existence. When did the Council stop caring enough to fight for anything? The hall fell silent. Many of the older species remembered when they had been warriors, explorers, and pioneers. Somewhere along the way, they had become bureaucrats and observers. The Dominion is coming, Sam continued. They have 5,000 ships, and they believe that strength is the only thing that matters in the universe. The Council can either stand with the Alliance and fight, or you can wait for them to come for you, one by one. President Hayes was watching the Council session through Sam's hidden cameras. She was also receiving reports from human intelligence networks throughout Dominion space. The enemy was preparing for something big. Madam President, her security advisor reported, our assets in Dominion territory confirm they're massing their entire fleet. Target appears to be the Council homeworld itself. Linda felt a chill run down her spine. If the Dominion conquered the Council homeworld, they would control the galaxy's primary government. Millions of species would be forced to submit or be destroyed. Contact Admiral Rodriguez, she ordered. Tell him to offer immediate military assistance. We can't let the homeworld fall. Back in the Council chambers, Sam was preparing to leave when Vashtar approached him. The insect being's voice was unusually quiet. Admiral, if the Council agrees to your terms, what guarantee do we have that humans won't become conquerors? Themselves? Sam looked at the alien for a long moment. Director, in the past 3 years, human forces have liberated 47 worlds from various threats. How many of those worlds did we keep for ourselves? Vashtar calculated quickly. None. You returned control to the original inhabitants, or helped them establish independent governments. That's your guarantee, Sam said. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to protect it. As Sam left the Council chambers, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency broadcasts announced that a massive Dominion fleet had been detected approaching the Council homeworld. They would arrive in less than 2 days. High Counselor Mearden called for an immediate vote. All in favor of accepting the Terran Defense Alliance offer of military assistance? The vote was unanimous. President Hayes received the news while meeting with her military advisors. How long to get our fleet to the homeworld? She asked Admiral Rodriguez, who had returned to Earth. With our new jump drives, 12 hours, Sam replied. But Madam President, we'll be facing the largest fleet in galactic history. Even with our advantages, this won't be easy. Linda looked around the room at her advisors, generals and scientists. These people represented the best of humanity. Brilliant, dedicated, and absolutely determined to do what was right. Admiral, she said, signal all Alliance forces. It's time to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of. As the orders went out across the quantum communication network, human ships throughout the galaxy began moving toward the Council homeworld. The largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin, and for the first time, the aliens would see the full extent of human capabilities. The Dominion believed they were about to achieve total victory. The Council believed they were about to witness their own destruction. Neither group understood that they were about to discover why. The aliens should have feared humanity from the very beginning. Fleet Admiral Chris Thompson stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, watching the largest fleet in human history approach the Council homeworld. 5,000 Dominion ships were already in position around the planet, their weapons aimed at the surface below. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender demands from the Dominion fleet. They want the Council to submit immediately or face total destruction. Chris looked at the tactical display. The enemy had more ships, bigger weapons, and they had positioned themselves perfectly to defend their conquest. By every military calculation, the Dominion should win this battle easily. Send a response, Chris ordered. Tell them the Terran Defense Alliance rejects their demands. If they want this system, they'll have to go through us. Supreme Dominion leader Krull Vex received the human message with amusement. He was a massive creature, part of the sector species that looked like walking mountains of living rock. His people had conquered hundreds of worlds through pure overwhelming force. Humans? He rumbled to his bridge crew. The Council is sending children to fight their battles now. His tactical officer, a Kethmer veteran, was less confident. Supreme Leader, our intelligence reports suggest the humans have unusual capabilities. Capabilities? Kralvex laughed, a sound like boulders falling down a mountain. They have 300 ships against our 5,000. What capabilities could possibly matter? The human fleet began to spread out across the star system in a pattern that confused the Dominion commanders. Instead of forming a battle line, the ships scattered in all directions, moving to positions that seemed random. What are they doing? Demanded War Chief Vexmar, one of Kralvex's generals. They're dividing their forces across dozens of locations. Dr. Lisa Grant, now serving as Admiral Thompson's strategic advisor, smiled as she watched the Dominion's confusion. They're trying to understand human tactics using their own military theories. They think we're making a mistake, aren't we? Asked Captain Jim Foster, one of the fleet commanders. We're outnumbered 17-1. Jim, Lisa replied, when has being outnumbered ever stopped humans from doing what's right? The battle began when the Dominion fleet moved to engage what they thought was the main human force. But as soon as they committed to their attack, Admiral Thompson revealed the first surprise. All units, execute Thunderstorm Protocol. He broadcast across the quantum network. Suddenly, human ships appeared throughout the star system in locations where the Dominion sensors showed empty space. The Alliance had been using cloaking technology that made their vessels invisible to enemy detection. Impossible, Kralvex roared. How many ships do they have? The answer was devastating. The humans hadn't brought 300 ships. They had brought over 800, with more arriving every minute through jump gates that opened and closed faster than the Dominion could track. But the real shock came when the human ships began their attack. Instead of targeting enemy vessels, they struck at something the Dominion had never considered vulnerable: their supply lines, command networks, and communication systems. Captain Sarah Wells led a strike team directly into the Dominion supply depot. Her ship, the Valiant, materialized inside the enemy formation and began destroying fuel ships and ammunition carriers. Target their logistics, she called to her squadron. They can't fight without supplies. War Chief Vexmar watched in horror as his carefully planned formation began to collapse. They're not fighting our fleet. They're attacking our support systems. Admiral Thompson was coordinating 12 different battles simultaneously, using the quantum communication network to direct ships across the entire star system in real time. No other species had ever attempted such complex coordination. Strike Team Alpha, take out their command relay, he ordered. Beta Team, target their sensor arrays. Gamma Team, rescue the Council members from the surface. The Dominion had expected a traditional space battle where the larger fleet would eventually win through superior firepower. Instead, they found themselves fighting a war on dozens of fronts against an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. Supreme Leader Kralvex tried to regain control of the battle. All ships fall back to defensive positions around the homeworld, but the humans had anticipated this move. Captain Dave Miller's stealth ships had already positioned themselves between the Dominion fleet and the planet. As the enemy ships tried to retreat, they found their path blocked by human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. We're surrounded, reported a Dominion commander. How did they get behind us? Dr. Tony Mitchell's new technology was working perfectly. The human ships could jump in and out of normal space at will, making them nearly impossible to track or target effectively. On the Council homeworld surface, rescue operations were already underway. Commander Amy Roberts led teams that were evacuating Council members from the planet's government centers. Elder Silandri, she called as her team reached the Ilani representative. We're getting you out of here. Commander, Silandri replied, there are thousands of civilian workers in this complex. We cannot leave them behind. We're not leaving anyone behind, Amy assured her. That's not how humans operate. The rescue operation was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships landed in the middle of active combat zones to extract civilians, while Marine teams fought their way through Dominion ground forces to reach trapped Council members. Kralvex was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. What are these creatures? He demanded of his advisors. They fight like they have no concern for their own survival. His intelligence officer, a surviving Kethmer from the Battle of Yulani, knew the answer. Supreme Leader, humans don't fight for conquest or glory. They fight for principles. That makes them more dangerous than any weapon. The turning point came when Admiral Thompson made a decision that shocked both his allies and enemies. Instead of trying to destroy the Dominion fleet, he offered them a choice. Supreme Leader Kralvex, his voice echoed across all communication channels, you have one opportunity to surrender. Your supply lines are cut, your command structure is compromised, and your ships are scattered across the system. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated with respect. Kralvex was furious. Humans do not dictate terms to the Dominion. Then we'll show you why the aliens should have feared us from the beginning, Thompson replied calmly. What happened next would be remembered as the most devastating display of military coordination in galactic history. Every human ship in the system moved simultaneously, striking at specific targets with precision that seemed impossible. The Dominion fleet didn't just lose the battle. It was systematically dismantled. Ships were disabled rather than destroyed. Crews were captured rather than killed, and within 6 hours, the most powerful military force in the galaxy had surrendered completely. President Linda Hayes received the news in the White House Situation Room. Admiral Thompson reports complete victory, her aide announced. The Dominion fleet has surrendered, all Council members have been rescued, and civilian casualties were minimal. Linda felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Humans had proven their capabilities beyond any doubt, but she knew this victory would change everything. High Counselor Mirden stood in his rescued chambers, looking at the human officers who had saved his government. Admiral Thompson, the Council is in your debt. What do you require from us? Chris removed his helmet and looked at the alien leader. High Counselor, we don't want anything from you. We want something for you. I don't understand. We want you to be free to govern your own people according to your own principles, Chris explained. We want the galaxy to be a place where different species can coexist peacefully, where they coexist strong protect the weak, and where no one has to live in fear. Mirden's glow brightened with understanding. You could have conquered us all. Your fleet could rule the galaxy. Counselor, Chris said, humans learned long ago that ruling others through force only creates more problems. We'd rather help you build something better. 10 years later, Ambassador Jake Morrison, now in his 70s, sat in his office overlooking the new Interspecies Cooperation Center on Earth. Through his window, he could see representatives from hundreds of worlds working together on projects that would have been impossible under the old Council system. The Galactic Council still existed, but it now shared power with the Terran Defense Alliance and dozens of other regional governments. The galaxy had become a more complex place, but also a more free one. A young diplomatic aide entered his office. Ambassador, we're receiving first contact requests from 3 new species. They want to join the Alliance, Jake smiled. Tell them. We'd be happy to meet with them. But make sure they understand that membership in the Alliance requires a commitment to protecting the rights of others. Yes, sir. Ambassador, if I may ask, why do you think the humans succeeded where other species failed? Jake looked out at the stars, remembering the Council chambers 40 years ago when the aliens had dismissed humanity as primitive and temporary. Because we never forgot that our strength comes not from our weapons or our technology, he said. Finally, but from our willingness to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult.